Hey, Dr. Jon Finn here. Welcome to the Habit Mechanic podcast. Right now, you can get my new best-selling book, Train Your Brain for the AI Revolution, at tougherminds.co.uk. The digital book, audiobook, and physical book are all available at a special price that you won't find anywhere else. Hello, Habit Mechanics. Dr. Jon Finn here. Hope you're having a good week so far. So today I want to focus on habits and analysing our habits so that we can start to understand where our helpful habits are and what I'd call our super habits, but also so we can understand where our destructive habits are and start to destroy those destructive habits one small habit at a time. To help you to do that, I'm gonna play in this podcast chapter 17 of the audiobook version of The Habit Mechanic. Chapter 17's title is Analyse and Improve Your Habits to Achieve Your Long-Term Goals in Life and Work. And just to orientate ourselves to where our habits are in our timeline of life, if you're familiar with the FAM story iceberg metaphor, which is a long-term goal-setting tool that we use, and that is in chapter 16, the chapter before chapter 17 in The Habit Mechanic. We show you how to create your own FAM story iceberg. The top of the iceberg is the distant future, and the apex of the distant future, the very top of it, might be that you want to be healthy and happy in the distant future. And if you come all the way to the bottom of the iceberg, that's today. And ultimately, if we want to achieve our goals in the distant future, which means we're going to have to achieve our goals today and this week and this month and this year and so on, that's our ability to do that will be driven by our habits. So the thing to focus on at the bottom of the iceberg is habits. And in chapter 17, I share some habit metric tools. Remember, psychometrics are a waste of time. They're deterministic, they're outdated. They're mainly based on tools that were created over 100 years ago, way before we understood how humans' brains actually worked. So in chapter 17, we share some habit metric tools that will really get you thinking about yourself in a different way. Like all the tools in the Habit Mechanic book and app, these are evergreen, and it means that you don't do them once, you use them to help you to keep building up your habit mechanic intelligence. So even if you've used these habit metric tools before, that's okay. You can use them again, because every time we use them, we learn more about ourselves. And also we should be noticing the progress that we're making. Areas which previously we decided to prioritize working on, we'll start to notice that we've actually made improvements in those areas, and we've automated better thinking and doing behaviors. So don't stop listening if you think, well, I've already done this, because this is not about doing something once. It's evergreen content and material ultimately. You can also do this in the app as well, so you can use the habit metric tools in the app so that you can actually store your results, and just makes it a little bit easier to keep refining and keep clear plans of what you're going to do next. So, as always, the key thing when you listen to this chapter is, it's one thing knowing what it's a good idea to do, what it suggests that you should do. It's a different story actually doing it and putting it into practice. And I'd really encourage you to make some notes, write down the answers to the questions, and that's how you're going to get the most benefit. And then target one area to work on. So that will be driven by the C scores in the second self-assessment that I share, and you're going to prioritize one area to work on. And whichever area you want to work on, there's a set of tools within the Habit Mechanic book that will help you to work on that area. So, for example, if it's better sleep, diet, and exercise, check out chapter 19. If it's better stress management, check out chapter 21 and 22. If it's confidence, look at chapter 23. If it's focus, productivity, work-life balance, etc., look at chapter 25. If it's performing under pressure, look at chapter 24. If it's planning, reflecting, setting your goals, that kind of thing, check out the chapter 16. And if you want to be a better leader, check out step 4 of the book, which runs from chapter 28 to 35. So all the tools to help you to build whichever habits you want to build are within the book, but we have to start by analysing where we're at. So that's all I wanted to say. Right now, I'm going to play chapter 17 from the audiobook version of The Habit Mechanic. Here's chapter 17. Chapter 17. Analyse and improve your habits to achieve your long-term goals in life and work. A TV commercial by sportswear brand Under Armour finished with the line, "It's what you do in the dark that puts you in the light." It showed the world record-breaking US swimmer Michael Phelps grinding and struggling through arduous winter training. Phelps was preparing for the 2016 Rio Olympics. It was his last appearance at the Games. He won 5 gold medals and a silver, making him the most decorated Olympian of all time. The commercial highlights the essential role your daily habits play in achieving your long-term goals. Let's think about how habits and goals are connected. Habits drive your goals. Your ability to achieve your future, ambitious, meaningful story will depend on your habits. Think about the fam story iceberg in a different way. Imagine you've turned the fam story iceberg on its side. The tip of the iceberg, which represents your long-term future and goals, is now on the right-hand side. The bottom of the iceberg is on the left, representing the present, today, right now, and the habits you need to develop to help you achieve your long-term goals. We all need to work on developing more helpful habits, often beginning by improving the basics like sleep, diet, and exercise. But the challenges of the modern world mean helpful habits are not always easy to build and maintain. We need to constantly work on them. Your thoughts and actions are mainly habit. To help you identify which habits will help you be at your best more often, let's think about how habits work in greater depth. First, it is important to remember that habits are all-pervading in our lives. You will hopefully recall the statistic, which is based on the work of Professor George Lakoff from University of California, Berkeley, that at least 98% of all human behaviour, how you think and what you do, is habit. This means that the vast majority of what we do and think every day is a habit. It's also important to recognise that unhelpful thinking can be a habit. A useful quote to help us understand just how powerful habits are in our lives is from William James, the founding father of American psychology. In his book, The Principles of Psychology, Volume 1, he said, "My experience of the world is what I am in the habit of attending to, doing and thinking." The good news is that becoming a habit mechanic allows you to change your habits via the process of me-power conditioning, deliberately working towards being your best. Introducing the T.R.A.I.T habit loop. To help you think in detail about how habits work, I've developed the T.R.A.I.T habit loop. I created T.R.A.I.T because other habit models I've seen did not make perfect sense to me, because they didn't get to the heart of what really drives our behaviour. T.R.A.I.T does, because it's based on cutting-edge science. Time and again, it has helped people develop powerful new, sustainable habits. Let me explain T.R.A.I.T, T-R-A-I-T, in more detail. T is for trigger. Triggers are the first part of the habit loop. They remind us what to do, for better or for worse. All triggers are ultimately driven by our emotions, hence why emotional regulation is so important. But because emotions are implicit, we don't always think of them in these terms. It is easier to think of a trigger
as a feeling, thought, smell, sound, or sight. Smartphones are among the most powerful triggering devices ever created. They provide endless visual, oral, and physical triggers and are always close by. Here is another example. Think about walking into a coffee shop. Triggers are all around you. There is high energy, tempting, ape brain friendly food strategically placed when you order your drink. You might have gone to the coffee shop because you were feeling low on energy, so you will be tempted to make an impulsive purchase of a sugary treat. R is for routine. Before I explain this, I want to introduce the AI in T.R.A.I.T because the routine part of the loop will then make more sense. AI is for ape incentive. The ape, alive perceived energy brain, is the driving force behind our behaviour. So habits connected to survival, maintaining and enhancing social status, and saving energy are easy to build because these factors are most rewarding for the ape brain. For example, stereotyping is connected to staying alive. We quickly judge, within a tenth of a second, who is friend or foe. For example, we quickly, and possibly inaccurately, make judgments about some people we have only just met. Thinking habits focusing on how you are perceived by important people. We can mindlessly spend a lot of time thinking about what important people in our lives think about us. This can include worrying and beating ourselves up. Thinking habits connected to conserving energy. We can default to high-calorie food choices when hungry or resist expending energy that does not result in a fast reward. When you feel hungry, you might eat an unhealthy, sugary snack loaded with calories because it is more energy efficient than eating a piece of fruit. Or you might avoid exercise by driving to places that you could walk to. Or stop mentally challenging work to do something less mentally challenging that will consume less energy. For example, stop writing a report to check your phone. More on R is for routine. A trigger is always followed by a routine. The action you take or how you think is an automatic or semi-automatic response to the trigger. For example, your phone buzzes, trigger. You check it, see a message from your partner, and respond, routine. The routine is driven by an ape incentive. You respond quickly to stay in your partner's good books. This might be a subconscious attempt to manage your partner's perception, the P in ape, of you. For example, by replying quickly, you're showing them how important they are to you. Sometimes the ape brain can gain more than one reward from a habit. Imagine your phone buzzes on the desk whilst you're listening to a presentation. Your routine is to stop and check your phone. This probably takes a lot less energy, the E in ape, than concentrating on the presentation. And it might be a message from a friend that makes you feel good about yourself, rewarding the perception, the P in ape, part of the ape brain, too. That is, your friend must like you because they are taking the time to message you. T is for training. The more you practice a habit, the more neurons in your brain become dedicated to it. More neurons make habit loops more powerful and easier to execute. 8 brain-friendly habits. You can build new habits, but this ability is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it is beneficial because you can build more new, helpful habits. On the other, it can be damaging because you can develop more unhelpful habits. The latter is easier than ever in the context of the VUCA world and the learning war, described in Chapter 6. 8 brain-friendly habits, which are typically unhelpful for modern life, are easier to build because the 8 brain is so central to the habit-building process. These 8 brain-friendly habits can become addictive, meaning you continue to do them despite their negative consequences for your health, happiness, and performance. These can often be the seeds of destructive habits that I mentioned earlier, Chapter 8, Part 7, because they unlock lots of other unhelpful habits and behaviours. Here are some examples. Example 1. Trigger, feeling hungry. Routine, eating an unhealthy snack that tastes good. APE incentive, getting energy into your body fast. Training. If this behaviour is repeated often enough to become an unhelpful habit, you will gain weight, feel worse about yourself, and increase your risk of long-term health problems. Example 2. Trigger. Feeling frustrated at missing your favourite TV show because you need to go to bed. Routine. Staying up late to watch the next episode. APE incentive. It takes less energy and is more immediately rewarding to watch the next episode rather than going upstairs to bed. Training. If this behaviour is repeated often enough to become an unhelpful habit, you will not get enough sleep and will feel tired the next day, have reduced productivity, do less exercise, eat worse food, and increase your long-term health problems. Example 3. Trigger. Feeling bored whilst doing a challenging piece of work. Routine. Checking your phone. APE incentive. It takes less energy and is more immediately rewarding to check your phone rather than complete your work. Training. If this behaviour is repeated often enough to become an unhelpful habit, you will have reduced productivity, need to work longer hours, become more easily distracted, and find it more difficult to do your best work. Example 4. Trigger. Feeling annoyed by something that happened at work. Routine. Having a cigarette. APE incentive. Fast and energy-efficient way to relieve stress. Training. If this behaviour is repeated often enough to become an unhelpful habit, you will increase your risk of long-term health problems, develop stained teeth and bad breath, and become addicted. Example 5. Trigger. Feeling stressed by your workload. Routine. Drinking alcohol. APE incentive. Fast and energy-efficient way to relax. Training. If this becomes an unhelpful habit, you will have poorer sleep quality, potentially leading to poorer brain function and higher stress levels the following day. In turn, this might make it more difficult to be efficient and effective at work and lead you to eat unhealthy food because it makes you feel better in the short term. This will all lead to increased risks of long-term health problems. Example 6. Trigger. Feeling unhappy about yourself. Routine. Buying some new clothes. APE incentive. Fast and energy-efficient way to change the way others perceive you, meaning you feel better. Training. If this behaviour is repeated often enough to become an unhelpful habit, you might get deeper into debt and feel worse about yourself in the long term. Example 7. Trigger. You receive an email from your boss that gives you some negative feedback about your work, which your ape brain takes personally. Routine. Beating yourself up. APE incentive. The ape brain is making you aware that your social status, how you are perceived by others, is under attack. Training. If this behaviour is repeated often enough to become an unhelpful habit, you will become really good at worrying about what other people think of you. Become an expert at looking for personal slights, or what I would call perception threats, and become an expert at beating yourself up. This might lead to long-term mental health problems. Test. If it is helpful, write down what T.R.A.I.T stands for to test your memory. Reflection. If it is helpful, why not write down one of your unhelpful habits using the T.R.A.I.T framework? What is the trigger? What is the routine? What is the APE incentive or incentives? What is the training, that is, if you keep practicing this habit, what do you get really good at? Habit Mechanic Habit Analysis Tools. In-depth habits reflection. Now that you understand more about how habits work, you can begin to analyse your own in more detail and do what I call an in-depth habits reflection exercise. This builds on the 8 brain test you completed earlier. Remember, habits are the foundation of your FAM story iceberg. You will fail if your habits are not helpful to achieving your daily, weekly, and monthly goals. Creating more helpful habits that will make it easier to make progress, succeed, and thrive. To help you understand which new habits would be helpful to build this month, score yourself for each of the following statements from 1 to 10, where 1 equals never and 10 equals always. Adding notes and specific examples next to the statements that really resonate with you will be useful. Statement 1. I give into temptation and act impulsively. Give yourself a score from 1 to 10, where 1 equals never and 10 equals always. Statement 2. I do things I regret. Give yourself a score from 1 to 10. Statement 3. I jump to conclusions. Give yourself a score from 1 to 10. Statement 4. I have no discipline to keep going when things get difficult. Give yourself a score. Statement 5. I have no discipline to stay on a task and complete it. Give yourself a score. Statement 6. I stay in my comfort zone and this stops me from being my best. Give yourself a score. Statement 7. I cannot resist temptations to quit. Give yourself a score. Statement 8. I do not continue to work when the reward is a long time in coming. Give yourself a score. Statement 9. I beat myself up when I have messed up. Give yourself a score. Statement 10. I am overconfident and this has unhelpful consequences. Give yourself a score. Statement 11. I make excuses for my bad behaviour. Give yourself a score. Statement 12. I do not push myself out of my comfort zone because I do not want to fail. Give yourself a score. Statement 13. I avoid taking personal responsibility for the quality of my own work. Give yourself a score. Statement 14. I let people down by not completing tasks on time to expected standards. Give yourself a score. Statement 15. I worry about things I cannot control. Give yourself a score. Now consider your scores. Identify the highest scores and the connected habits. Now, try to write down a typical way you use your most unhelpful habit. For example, I beat myself up when I make a mistake. Don't worry if you are not sure what to write. I will help you to think about your unhelpful habits in even more detail shortly. Super habits. Now that you have reflected on some of your unhelpful habits, I want to revisit the super habit concept I mentioned earlier. Chapter 8, Part 7. Through Tougher Minds work with over 10,000 people, I've repeatedly seen a set of core habits, super habits, that seem to be more powerful than other habits in helping people be healthier, happier, and at their best. When people develop super habits, many other aspects of their lives become easier because these habits trigger other helpful habits and behaviours. They enable people to manage few horribly unhelpful emotions and make the type of personal progress, habit mechanic development, essential for feeling happy and fulfilled. Super habits make it easier for people to achieve the following outcomes. 1. Improving diet, exercise and sleep for better brain performance. 2. Better stress management. 3. Spending less time thinking unhelpful thoughts. 4. Being focused to drive productivity, creativity and problem solving. 5. Building and maintaining robust levels of confidence. 6. Performing well under pressure. 7. Better leadership for improved individual and team performance. All of these lead to better work-life balance. Finding your super habits will help you unlock your potential. I have developed and refined my super habits over many years. They naturally develop and change as you improve your habit mechanic intelligence and develop more helpful habits. Here is an overview of my current super habits and the other helpful habits and behaviours each one triggers. They might sound simple, but they have emerged through many years of habit mechanic training and trial and error. Remember, there is a huge difference between knowing these things are helpful and turning them into habits. Daily example. 1. Morning run activates my brain and means it is easier to think clearly, focus and be productive. Triggers healthy eating habits. Contributes to my overall daily exercise, which makes sleeping easier at night. Helps me manage my weight. 2. Completing a daily tea plan. Makes it easier for me to get the most out of my day. Triggers a lot of the productivity habits I have developed. Having a productive day makes me feel better about myself at the end of the day and helps me better manage work-life balance. 3. 5-minute lunchtime walk where I deliberately focus on my breathing. Helps me manage stress, be productive in the afternoon, finish work on time, better manage work-life balance, sleep better. 4. End-of-day planning for the next day combined with a written reflection on the current day. Helps me manage stress, see progress, build confidence, finish work on time, activates my evening routine and habits, helps me sleep better. Weekly examples. Weekly reflection and planning for week ahead. Improves my motivation, productivity and confidence. Helps activate my daily super habits. Monthly or bi-monthly examples. 1. Review and update my FAM, Future Ambitious Meaningful Story. Improves my motivation, productivity and confidence. Helps activate my daily and weekly super habits. 2. Complete the Team Power Leadership Self-Assessments, which are in step 4 of this book. Improves my leadership, helps the business, my team and me fulfill our potential, helps activate my daily and weekly super habits. Because of life's ebbs and flows, being at our best is an ongoing journey. This means my super habits are not set in stone because I am still learning how to be my best. Also, as my life changes, I might have to adjust some of my super habits so they better serve me in my new life circumstances. For example, going into the office every day versus working remotely. It is not essential for you to understand your super habits right now. You will discover them over time. The first step to uncovering your super habits is developing more helpful habits in tandem with developing your habit mechanic intelligence. That is what this book is designed to help you do. So, next I want you to complete an exercise designed to help you begin identifying your helpful habits. Some you will already have developed, but others you will need to purposefully develop. Helpful Habits Reflection. The Helpful Habits Reflection is designed to help you build on what you learned from the in-depth habits reflection. This helped you think about your unhelpful habits. So at this point, it might be useful to reflect on your in-depth habits reflection notes and scores. To complete the Helpful Habits Reflection, follow these instructions. Below are 13 statements. Listen to them and choose your current position for each one from this list of 3 options. A. Not a priority. B. I already do this well. C. I need to do this better. Statement 1. I reflect on my diet, exercise and sleep and plan to make daily improvements in these areas. Choose your current position. A. Not a priority. B. I already do this well. And C. I need to do this better. Statement 2. At the end of the day, it would be helpful to reflect and highlight what went well and what I can improve tomorrow. Choose your current position. A, B or C. Statement 3. At the end of every week, it would be helpful to think about what went well and plan how I can improve next week. Choose your current position. A, B or C. Statement 4. From time to time, it would be helpful to think about my future and set long, medium, and short-term goals to focus my efforts and achieve my future ambitions. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 5. It would be helpful to regularly update my yearly and monthly calendar to add in important work and life activities. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 6. It would be helpful to recognise when I am stressed and successfully plan to reduce my stress. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 7. It would be helpful to monitor my confidence levels and successfully build up confidence in areas where it is low. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 8. It would be helpful to recognise when my emotions are unhelpful and successfully keep them under control. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 9. It would be helpful to successfully plan to improve my productivity levels. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 10. It would be helpful to successfully plan to improve my learning and performance in areas where I want to improve. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 11. It would be helpful to successfully plan to improve my performance under pressure. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 12. It would be helpful to plan out my day to improve my productivity. Choose your current position, A, B, or C. Statement 13. It would be helpful to learn how to become an even better leader. Choose your position, A, B, or C. Now that you have reflected, give each area you have rated C, I need to do this better, a priority score. 1 equals lowest, 10 equals highest. If it is helpful, write down some reflections about what you have learned. Make a note of the helpful habits you already have that make your life easier, but also begin to consider which new helpful habits you could develop to replace your unhelpful ones. Remember, you don't need to highlight your super habits yet. These will emerge over time as you develop your habit mechanic intelligence. The first step to uncovering your super habits is developing more helpful habits. Your Me Power wish list. By reflecting on your habits, you will have identified the most significant challenge or challenges, problem or problems your 8 brain poses. You may now wish to add any important habits you have identified to your Me Power wish list. We started to create this in Chapter 12. Remember, it is only realistic to make one tiny change at a time or build one tiny new habit at a time. Nobody has the capacity to completely overhaul and change their behaviour in one go. It is a gradual process. Habit mechanic language and tools you have learned in Chapter 17. Core language, trait, trigger, routine, ape incentive training, habit loop. A unique habit model created to help people understand how their habits work. Self-reflection tools, in-depth habits reflection. In-depth exercise to help you begin identifying your most unhelpful habits. Helpful habits reflection. An exercise to help you reflect on which new habits it would be most helpful to build. Please refer to Figure 17.3 in the accompanying PDF to see how your habit mechanic intelligence igloo is building up. Next, we'll look at how our behavioural science-based 9 action factors framework can supercharge the habit building process.
So that's Chapter 17. I hope that you've got a much better understanding of your habits now, how they work, which ones are helping you to be at your best, but also which ones are holding you back. But completing the habit metric tools, or using habit metric tools, digging into your automatic thinking and doing processes and targeting one area to work on is just the first step. We now need to go and learn some more about the thing that we want to work on And just to recap, if it's sleep, diet and exercise, check out chapter 19. If it's stress management, emotional regulation, check out chapter 21, chapter 22. If it's confidence, check out chapter 23. If it's focus, productivity, work-life balance type stuff, check out chapter 25. If it's performing under pressure, check out chapter 24. If you want to supercharge your learning in areas that you want to get better at learning, check out the insights in chapter 5, but also in chapter 26. If you want to really supercharge your motivation and your goal setting and how you reflect, check out chapter 16 as a starting point. If you want to really supercharge your leadership, look at the Chief Habit Mechanics section of the book, which is step 4 of the book. And that runs from chapters 28 to 35. So just starting to understand which habit we want to work on is the first step. We then need to create a habit building plan ultimately. And in each of those chapters, there are example habit building plans. So I hope that helps. The key is not just to know what to do, it's to start putting something into practice. And, you know, the most important habit that we can have every day is just one that helps us to reflect and plan in a really simple way. And I use the daily T plan to help me to do that, which is in chapter 1 of the book. And most often my daily T plan is focused on creating a willpower story, which is a tool that brings together lots of other tools in the habit mechanic. And I introduced that tool in chapter 25. But the key is to start to build these daily, weekly, monthly, intelligent self-watching and intelligent planning structures in our lives. All the tools are within the book and the app to allow you to do that. And then we can keep on top of our habits and give ourselves the best chance of destroying our destructive habits and building new super habits. So whatever we're good at, for better or for worse, we've been practicing those things for a long time. So be patient, keep persisting, and remember, you never know the habit that is going to be the one that changes your life. And it could well be this one that you're working on, because you're only ever one habit away. Thanks for listening to the Habit Mechanic podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe and tell someone else about one of the ideas or insights that you found most interesting.